Bună ziua și bine ați venit! Discutăm astăzi într-un interviu în exclusivitate pentru G4Media cu József Váradi, CEO Wizz Air. Mr. Váradi, I think there's hardly any business today that hasn't been affected by the increase of oil price. How does this affect Wizz Air?
Well, I would say that, of course, we live on the same planet as anyone else, but we are in a good position because we have over 80% of our fuel requirement hedged over the next 6 months. So effectively, whatever happens in the world, it doesn't really impact on us short term. Now, of course, over time, if it keeps dragging for a long period, then we would have more impact. But as far as the short term is concerned, we are very well protected as we are hedged both on fuel and foreign exchange. So our business short term, next 6 months, is basically de-risked from geopolitical events and kind of subsequent issues falling out of that.
Mm-hmm. The summer season is going to start very soon. The price increase does have impact on this season, or do we look at a longer term?
Well, I mean, I think we need to look at it in perspective. As I said, we are very well hedged, so we are not much exposed to spiking costs out there on fuel. So we're seeing that, we can be pretty much in the same position or very close to it going through the summer. So people should not be expecting significant price increases from Wizz Air. Some other airlines may act differently and they may have to charge more because they are not well protected by hedges as we are. But I would also say that I think we shall just see how long this conflict is going to drag and when it ends, because as in the moment it ends, it will moderate the oil price, it will moderate the fuel price environment. It will have some time lag, but if you think that this conflict is over in the next couple of months, I would guess that within the time frame of 4 to 6 months, we will be pretty much back to where we were in terms of oil price and corresponding fuel price for aviation. So I don't think that I would overreact to this situation. So we will see what the long term means. But again, I think for the next 6 months, we are pretty well covered. We are in a good position. And I would not expect this conflict to go beyond 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Do you have the same stance on the long term, considering that there's not only the fuel price increase, there's also environmental costs increasing, there's much more regulations coming from the countries and the European Union? What do you think on the long term?
Yeah, I think that there will be more pressure on costs in the industry for sure, due to reasons you just listed. But at the same time, I also think that we are doing something about that. We are effectively doing two things. We are renewing technology. We have been transforming our entire operating platform, our entire fleet, into a new technology that is a lot more economical to operate, and it is a lot more sustainability friendly, environmental friendly than previous technology. We are burning 17% less fuel with the technology that we are adapting to. And that kind of a transition is at around 80% completion rate as we speak, and will be 100% in 2 years from now. So that's a significant step change, and it is reducing cost of operations quite significantly. Secondly, we are also upgauging our aircraft. So we are flying bigger aircraft, 239-seater aircraft, versus the previous aircraft of 180 seats. That also enables us to deliver better economic performance, because by engineering design, a bigger aircraft delivers lower unit cost, lower seat cost than smaller aircraft. So those two things combined effectively enable us to weather the storm, to make sure that we are resilient to cost creep and cost pressure as well, because those two changes are basically making sure that we are able to hold the lines and we are able to deliver operations without really increasing cost of that. If I look at the last 2 to 3 years, effectively, our unit cost has not been creeping. Our unit cost has been offset by these structural initiatives, these structural investments, notwithstanding all the inflationary pressure on the business.
Coming back to regulation, European Union lawmakers want to include a free cabin bag in the ticket price. Would that force low-cost players and airlines like Wizz Air to increase ticket prices?
Look, I mean, my personal view is that, I mean, we shall see what's going to happen. I mean, that's a great declaration, but I think we will have to see what effectively is going to be decided and enacted in law. If you look at our aircraft, it is physically impossible to get a free cabin bag into the aircraft by everyone, every single passenger. It is impossible. You cannot locate those bags. The aircraft doesn't have the capacity to process it. So I think there are physical limitations to that. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens to regulations, we are a lower cost producer than our competitors. And as a result of that, I think that even if we are affected by changing regulations, still, we will be operating the airline at lower cost than others. And maybe you have to restructure the way you are going to market, because at the moment what we are doing is that we try to unbundle the fares to make ticket prices very low. And people, if they consume some of the services, they buy other products, then they pay for that. If some of these products we are charging separately for today will be forwarded into the ticket price. It may be a little higher ticket price, but it would be less charge otherwise for additional services, additional products. So at the end of the day, I don't think this is going to move the dial. I don't think this is going to make a profound impact on our business model. Mm-hmm.
Low-cost airlines have often been criticized for service and compensation delays, especially during disruptions. What concrete changes did Wizz Air implement in these past few years to improve the passenger experience?
Yeah, so let me just put the facts out there. First of all, when you look at schedule completion, which basically means that what percentage of the published schedule of the airline is effectively flown, completed, we are the best in Europe. We complete 99.7% of our schedule. An average airline in Europe cancels 3 times more flights than what we cancel. So basically, we don't cancel flights. The only reason we cancel flights are weather, when it's severe weather, or airport closure, or I don't know, airspace closure due to war or whatever. So those very severe circumstances. But when it comes to our own control of operations, we don't really cancel flights. Secondly, we have been improving a lot on on-time performance, given our investments into more spare aircraft, more spare crews. So simply we have created a more robust contingency layer in our operation to make sure that when the business is disrupted, we have means to recover from those disruptions. And in terms of compensation, we have automated all of that. So effectively, if someone is subject to compensation, the person just pushes a button and we are paying immediately. I think we must be the best paying airline in Europe. So we don't delay anything. We don't make it difficult. Really, the consumer just pushes a button and he or she gets the money on his or her account. So I think we have learned a lot from the COVID experience with that regard, that this whole process, no matter what intention you have as an airline, can be very burdensome if it's manual. That's why we invested a lot into automating this process to make sure that we are easing this kind of a pain to the consumer.
At European level, you expanded a lot in the Central and Eastern Europe. And where do you think the next wave of growth will come from? Maybe in this region, maybe all the areas that you cover, and maybe what are the biggest changes in destinations in the recent times, especially considering all the conflicts in the world? Are these affecting the way people travel and their destinations?
Good question. So I think, the way we look at life is that Wizz Air believes that Central and East Europe will continue to serve significant growth opportunities for the airline. And the very reason for that is continued GDP development and GDP growth in the countries. There is a bit of a mathematical formula that, when you observe country GDP growth, roughly twice of that will become airline growth. So GDP growth 3%, airline growth is expected to be around 6%. That's kind of a rule of thumb. And we're seeing that Central East Europe will grow GDP disproportionately in Europe in its favor versus Western Europe. So we will see more GDP growth coming through Central East Europe than Western Europe. And I think that will create a foundation for investing further and investing more from our perspective into Central and East Europe. So we will see Central and East Europe as the growth engine for Wizz Air in the next years to come. I think there are a few changes in patterns. One change, we were just touching base on this, that diaspora travel will be complemented increasingly with leisure travel, inbound, outbound. And if you look at our network in Romania, clearly most of the new capacity put into play in Romania is effectively leisure capacity, inbound or outbound leisure capacity, not diaspora traffic, although we are, of course, holding up diaspora traffic too. So I think we will be increasingly catered for accommodating and stimulating demand for leisure in the country. And I think the other trend, which is more related to the recent events in the Middle East, is that, people are not going to go there. People are not going to go to the Middle East anytime soon. And people are not going to fly through the Middle East, through Middle Eastern carriers, simply just because of the level of uncertainties and unpredictability. I think European travel will pick up its pace. European travel will become more popular, certainly this summer, this year. I think people will look for European options. That's why we are really increasing our network to the kind of classic European summer destinations across the sea lines from east to west, because I think travel will reorientate itself from the Middle East definitely to more European travel.